Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for the civil services preparation. The KPSC examination could be soon conducted by the KPSC. In all likelihood, the notification will also be soon released as well. In order to help you in your preparation, what we have picked up is articles from the Hindu, the Indian Express, Deccan Herald, and we will also come up with the practice questions for the same. In order to help you on your mains examination front, we have picked up articles which can be likely asked in your answer writing. So what are you waiting for? Hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel and also share it with your fellow aspirants as well. Let's look into the first practice question and the first article for the day. Which of the following statements are correct with reference to the Krishna river? The Krishna river originates at Talakaveri in Kur district of Karnataka in Brahmagiri range of hills in the Western Ghats. Michell river is its tributary. It is the third longest river in India and the fourth largest in terms of water inflows and river basin in India. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 2 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Krishna water, which is why we have taken this practice question. When we look into the first statement, the first statement is wrong. Why? That is because this statement that we are speaking of is with respect to the Kaveri river. The Krishna river originates at Mahabaleshwar in Western Ghats and not at Talakaveri in Coorg district of Karnataka. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, Michell river is its tributary. Yes, this statement is right. When we speak about the Krishna river, we have two tributaries. The tributaries in the form of left bank tributaries, the tributaries in the form of right bank tributaries. Which are the left bank tributaries? We have Yerla, Bhima, Dindi, Musi, Palleru and Manneru. And the right bank tributaries include Venna, Koina, Panchaganga, Dudganga, Ghataprabha, Malaprabha as well as Tungabhadra. These are the questions which for sure will be asked in your preliminary examination, because there have been questions that have been asked in the past with respect to KPSC where rivers have been asked. Where have they originated from? Which are the left bank tributaries? Which are the right bank tributaries? Each of these questions have been asked in your KPSC examination. Also know the map as well, that it rises in Mahabaleshwar in the Western Ghats, moves all the way, it flows through the state of Maharashtra, through the state of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and ultimately it goes into the Bay of Bengal region. This is how the journey goes through, and as it takes its journey, it happens to be the third longest river in India, fourth largest in terms of water inflows and river basin in India. This statement is also right. So the second and the third statements are right. The first statement is wrong, which is why the answer to this would be B only. So this happens to be the first question and the first article for the day. Let's look into the second practice question. Who among the following visited Vijayanagara kingdom during the reign of Devaraya II? Abdul Razak, Barbosa, Nunes, Marco Polo. The answer to this is Abdul Razak. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to Vijayanagara Empire. So the Vijayanagara Empire, we have an article which makes a mention of Vijayanagara Empire. It makes a mention of Krishna Deva Raya as well, which is why we thought we will take up one of the important parameters with respect to the Vijayanagara Empire, that is with respect to the travelers. So what I want you to do as part of the assignment is to read about the architecture of the Vijayanagara Empire. Which are the important landmark creature, that architectural beauty that has been created by the Vijayanagara Empire? Please put it on the comment section. But for now, we will understand some of the important travelers who have traveled during the period of Vijayanagara rule. Who are these travelers? We have Abu Abdullah, who is from Morocco during the period of Harihara I, Nicole di Conti, Italy, Devaraya II, Abdul Razak from Persia during the period of Devaraya II. Then we have Nikitin from Russia, Virupaksha Raya II, Ludovico di Worthema from Italy during the period of Krishna Deva Raya, Barbosa during the Krishna Deva Raya rule, Domingo Pace during Krishna Deva Raya rule, and Fernando Nunes during Achyuta Deva Raya rule. These are some of the travelers who have traveled during the 14th century to the Vijayanagara Empire, and they also explain beautifully about the Vijayanagara Empire, that this happens to be one of the important kingdoms in the southern part of India. This happens to be one of the important kingdoms which was built with richness, and the people and the society was also based on equality during that particular period. So these are the travelers who explained beautifully about the Vijayanagara rulers as well as the Vijayanagara kingdom. So it happens to be Abdul Razak, who was from Persia, and he happened to make the visit during the rule of the Deva Raya too. Now let's look into the next article and the mains related article. Aviation professionalism which India must draw from. The article here is basically speaking about recent incidents that happened in the country of Japan. What exactly happened? There was a clash that happened. There was a coastal guard aircraft that was present. There was also another civil aviation flight that was present. This civil aviation flight, as it was on its runway, it hit this coastal guard flight and ultimately it created in a burst. Fire accident did occur, and during this period about 5 people did pass away, but as many as 379 people were saved. In this particular backdrop, what we have to understand is the meticulous planning and the evacuation drive that was taken place during this particular incident. This happened to be a disaster. Whenever there is a disaster, what comes into the picture? The meticulous planning of those people who are present in that area. If you have to delve deep into this subject matter, what happens on a lighter note? What do we do? In India, whenever there is a aircraft, I mean, let's say we have these instructions that are given by the air hostesses. What do? Even before the takeoff happens in a particular aircraft, they give us certain instructions that we have to put the seat belt, that in case there is a pressure drop, there is an oxygen that immediately falls, that you have a mask that comes up, you have to wear these masks, and there are certain procedures about the exit route, so on and so forth. But how many of us actually listen to this entire wordings that have been given by the air hostess as well as the aircraft crew? We hardly listen to it, because even we keep following what is happening on our phones, we do not listen to them, and sometimes we are seeing what's happening outside as well, and as a result, whatever safety instructions that have been given by this aircraft crew are not followed at the same time. And the minute we land, what happens? Immediately people start taking their luggages, and there is a huge lane that occurs, and they are asked to stand in that particular lane, despite the instructions given by the cabin crew to wait and sit and also walk out peacefully out of the aircraft. We immediately start congesting that area, and we happen to stay in long queues as well. This is generally the practice that we see in the aircraft, but this is what happened in Japan. In Japan, the minute there was this incident, people did not gather all of a sudden. There was an evacuation drive that was followed. People started listening to the cabin crew, which we felt unfortunately they did not look for their bags immediately. There have been ample number of instances where in couple of countries, whenever there has been such fire accidents that has taken place on the aircraft, people start immediately picking their luggages and they start moving towards the exit route. But then in this case, the minute these cabin crew asked the people to first evacuate themselves, not look for the bags that they have, they immediately started following the instructions of the people, that is the cabin crew, and were immediately evacuated. And after they came outside the aircraft, they did not stay in that particular area, and ultimately the crowding out was also stopped as well. So in this particular backdrop, what is the importance of the cabin crew? Whatever instructions have been given by the cabin crew, whatever they say during the runway flight, in that case all these instructions will have to be followed. So they say primarily because of the safety of the people. So whenever there is an evacuation drive or there is a disaster that strikes, follow the instructions of these people. Don't go by what is in the luggage. Don't start carrying your bags. Don't congest that particular place. Whatever is being instructed, follow those instructions. And this is what the author says, that all passengers followed the safety instructions and left the aircraft without carrying their handbags or crowding around after coming down the aircraft evacuation slides. Apart from that, what are the other issues that can happen because of the accident? Whenever you see the accidents, what could be the likely repercussions, or what could it be due to? Let's say for example, there is a limit as to how much a person can drive or a person can ride. Similarly, when it comes to aircraft as well, there is a limit. Generally, when a pilot is able to fly a aircraft, there is a benchmark that is laid. For example, he may feel a lot of fatigue in this particular case. He would not be able to drive this aircraft for a very long period of time. So there is a benchmark that is laid beyond which he should not be riding. But in few exceptional circumstances, if the pilot is asked to drive this aircraft for a very long period of time, that could also lead to likely repercussions as well as disasters. In the Asiana crash in San Francisco on July 6, 2013, the captain had flown previously on Airbus aircraft. What is another issue? There are different kinds of manufacturers. For example, Boeing or Airbus, these happens to be the major aircraft manufacturers. What if there is a pilot who's got used to driving a specific kind of aircraft, for example those manufactured by Airbus? So all of a sudden, if he is shifting to an alternative one which is from a different company, he may have to get used to it. He has to practice it as well and ultimately take a move to a different aircraft. But if a person is flying Airbus for a very long period of time without much practice, if he shifts to Boeing, in that case it can also lead to disasters, is another viewpoint. Air India has also had a long history of covering up serious incidents and accidents with the blessings of the DGCA. So these things should not happen. Whenever there is a violation, why that violation happened, what is the root cause of that violation, and such violation should not happen in the near future is what the author says. That apart, we have to understand a larger picture. Why does aircraft accidents take place? That is because of the multiple reasons. The first is because of the human error. What is the human error that we are speaking of? One is with respect to the pilot error. The other is with respect to the air traffic controller error. Pilot error, when the pilot is not able to understand a certain scenario, or there have been accidents that have been caused on the runway because of not appreciating a certain fact, or because he is not been able to understand the legal technical loopholes. So if there is a pilot who is not able to understand the technicalities behind it, or because of the exhaustion, or because of the tiring nature, or he is not able to understand the technicalities, in that case there can be a human error which can lead to an accident. The air traffic controller error, which happened in Japan in the instant case, where there is the miscommunication that happened. The communication was not sent on time to the civilian aircraft, and there was a coastal aircraft that was present, coastal guard aircraft, and because there was no communication, proper communication, air traffic controller error did occur, and ultimately it resulted in an accident. Then it can also result in the mechanical failures as well. One is because of the engine failure. The second is with respect to the structural failures. Engine failure, so the main engine that the aircraft works on does not work properly, it can lead to a disaster. Then we have structural failures. What are these structural failures? Let's say for example the wings of the aircraft, or for example the wheel spin of the aircraft, or for example the tires of the aircraft. If these are not properly checked and there is improper maintenance of the engine, or for example these wings or the speed and the tires and so on and so forth, if there is no proper maintenance or there is mechanical failures that has resulted, even in that case it can result in the aircraft accidents. Then it can be because of the weather conditions. What are these weather conditions? When there is maximum turbulence, when there is heavy rainfall that is taking place, when these aircrafts are not able to withstand the problems, and at the same time there is poor visibility, there is fog like conditions. Then there is the pilot who is not able to see, if at all he is wanting to bring the aircraft down the lane onto the runway, because of the fog like conditions he is not able to see what is happening on the runway. In that case, because of the poor visibility, it can result in the aircraft accident. Then bird strikes are another major problem. If at all a bird strikes the windspan, or for example the engine, or for example the wheels, in that case it can also result in the aircraft rupture. Then we have the mid-air collisions, when there is no communication, when the navigation that is prescribed is not in path and there is no communication between one aircraft and another aircraft, they can also hit in the mid-air as well. Then there is runway incursions. So these people are given certain directions to follow a particular runway. If the communication lapse happens, if they happen to go on to a different runway, even in that case aircraft accidents can occur. Fuel issues, let's say for example there might be a prediction that this is the amount of fuel that is required for a person to move from place A to place B, and all of a sudden there are fuel issues that occur, there is not enough fuel in the aircraft. This can also result in the collision. And lack of training or inadequate training, we did discuss about it, that a person, if at all he does not have required amount of training to the pilot, or he happens to switch from one company to another company where he is driving a different kind of a machine from Airbus to Boeing or from Boeing to Airbus, even in that case it can result in accidents. Then there is miscommunication between the cockpit crew, air traffic control, ground personnel can also lead to misunderstanding and errors, and navigation errors can result in the aircraft accidents. These are the possible reasons as to why there are issues that persist and aircraft accidents that take place. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says structured negotiation as a boost for disability rights. What is this article speaking about? The article here is speaking about structured negotiation. What is this concept of structured negotiation? We have an alternative tool which we call as the alternative dispute resolution. What is the alternative dispute resolution? When we speak about alternative dispute resolution, we have different kinds of alternative dispute resolution. Let's say for example, we have arbitration, then we have mediation, then what we have is negotiation. What happens in arbitration? In arbitration, which is even recognized by a legal process, and we do have the law as well. What does it say? Let's say there is a contract. In this particular contract, there is a specific clause which speaks about arbitration. What is arbitration? That in a specific contract, that if at all there is a violation of certain terms and conditions of the contract, there will be a clause which will be inserted in the contract that first we will explore the option of appointing an arbitrator, then subsequently if at all that doesn't work, then we will take through the legal channels. So who is an arbitrator? An arbitrator can be a person who will be appointed by these two parties. Ultimately, this arbitrator will ultimately ensure that the terms and conditions are read and claims are also put up before the arbitrator, and this will be out of the court settlement. So it will not go to the court of law because it happens to be a very long procedural process. In this particular case, the arbitrator decides what the procedures are, and ultimately this issue will not also come into the open forum. If it is a court case, then it is obviously coming into the open forum. It can be discussed by the public as well. It will be part of the public scrutiny. It can be taken up by the newspapers, and they can also start thinking and writing about it. And at one particular point of time, the reputation of the company could also be at stake as well. In order to avoid all this, if there is a contract which says that you have to first exhaust the option of the arbitration, an arbitrator will be appointed. They will discuss the nuances of this entire case and ultimately come to a conclusion saying that this is what the ultimate final analysis is, and this is what the order of the arbitrator is, and if at all they comply by it, they sign the agreement and completely execute that particular terms and conditions as prescribed by the author. Then you have the mediation as well. What happens in the mediation? In mediation, there are two kinds of mediation. One is the family matter mediation, which we are not discussing in this instant case. The other happens to be, let's say for example, there is eviction suit, or for example rental issues where the sum is very less, or for example they want to settle the dispute. In that particular case, there might be no contract per se, or for example there might be no condition that is mentioned in the contract, but this happens to be a very simple matter. So what does the court do? The court alternatively suggests to the parties, first go to the mediation center, see if you can settle this matter in person. If at all they do, good for the court, or else subsequently they'll come back to the court and all their issues will be sorted out. Then what we have is negotiation. What happens in negotiation? In negotiation, one party puts out the claims. Again, there is no contract per se, but then one party puts out the claim, the other party also starts negotiating with them. So this is what the damages that you have to pay, this is what is the compensation that you have to pay. So they try discussing amongst each other, pitching their pitch, and ultimately they will come to a conclusion. But what is the structured negotiation? This is more to do with the social welfare schemes and programs. This is more to do with the disability rights. What happens in this particular case? We have the right laws. For example, we have in India Right of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016. Similarly, in any other country there can be social welfare schemes and programs and laws that are in specific focus to the disabled people. What if there is a law which mandates that there has to be a proper path for the people who are moving in a particular area? If it is us who would be able to see, we know for the fact that there is a staircase and we would be able to climb. But if it is a person who is not having a vision, he is completely blind, there has to be a particular path. This person should be able to walk freely as well. Or what if a person has lost his legs and he happens to be a disabled person? So there has to be a wheeler road, which means to say that the person should be able to sit on these sitters and the wheelers, and they should be able to slide and glide in that particular path. What if there is not that path prescribed in a particular place? This ultimately leads to these people not able to access a certain path. Or for example, let's say there is a company, for example Ola or Uber for the sake of example, or for example any other company. This company has been asked or prescribed to follow a certain rules so that the disabled are also inclusive into this entire operations. But what if the company is not able to come up with those kind of guarantees? In that particular case, if this person who is disabled fights for its rights, going to the court, what are the likely repercussions for this company? This company's image could be at stake, because an image could be created in such a way that this particular company is not inclusive, they do not support the disabled people, and ultimately their reputation could be at stake. So instead of going to the courts directly, you are making use of an alternative dispute resolution in the form of structured negotiation, where both the parties, for example the disabled person, ideally this company should have provided certain services to the disabled person. This disabled person has not got the required service. So instead of going to the court, they will approach an alternative forum where they put out their claims, and this company will also accept the claims, and subsequently they negotiate about the damages and the compensation, and these damages and the compensation are paid to this disabled person. So the image and the reputation of the company is not put out in outside forum, that is, they are not put out in the general public forum, and the image is kept intact, and at the same time this person has now got the services, and at the same time is also got a certain set of damages and compensation that are being paid. So there is win-win situation for both the parties. So at the heart of this success lies the win-win situation which the methodology of structured negotiation presents. So structured negotiation is nothing but a collaborative and a solution driven dispute resolution technique, which is increasingly being used as an alternative to the litigation for the social welfare schemes and programs. Instead of going to the court, which is a cumbersome process, which is a procedural process, a lot of time will be employed. You will have to use the services of the advocates who will charge exorbitantly. In this particular case, there is terms and conditions that are laid out, and these parties accept it, and they go before one of the negotiator, they negotiate, and everything is settled, and most of it will be private as well. So these are the advantages of the structured negotiation. So as it is increasing pendency, paperwork and red tape in the Indian civil courts, they are already dissuading parties from using dispute resolution process. So India's flagship disability legislation, the Right of Persons with Disability, provides that any non-compliance with its provisions may be reported to the Chief Commissioner for Personnel with Responsible Disabilities. The CCPD then puts up the defaulting service provider on notice and may either direct them to make their service accessible or impose penalties. So our alternative can be an institutional one, or it can be a structured negotiation, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says rise in child marriages in West Bengal. The article here is speaking about increase of child marriages in West Bengal with specific focus, and also in couple of other states as well as union territories. If you look into the facts that have been given in this article, Bihar 16.7%, West Bengal 15.2%, Uttar Pradesh 12.5% and Maharashtra 8.2% accounted for more than half of the total headcount burden of child marriages in girls. 1 in 5 girls are still married below the legal age in India. The largest absolute increase in the headcount was observed in West Bengal, representing an increase of 32.3% in headcount. West Bengal saw the largest absolute increase with over 5 lakh more girls getting married as children. So this basically means that there are increasing cases of child marriages that is happening in the state of West Bengal and also in other states. What are the major issues when it comes to child marriages? The major issues when it comes to child marriages as given under this article is that most of the children and most of the women who give birth, that is these children who give birth, are not adequately having right weight, and as a result there have been mortalities that has resulted. So children are born with a low birth weight, and as a result doctors are not able to save them. Even mothers are not meant to give birth at the age of 13, 14 or 15 in this particular case, and as a result it has resulted in death of these persons. In order to overcome this, we have the state government of West Bengal which has come up with Kanyashree Prakalpa, which is a conditional cash transfer scheme aimed at incentivizing the schooling of all teenage girls between the ages of 13 and 18 and simultaneously discouraging child marriage. Because of this particular program, it was also awarded United Nations Public Service Award for 2017, and the government has also been significantly increased the budget as well. Despite this, there continues to be child marriages in West Bengal. What are the reasons for it? One happens to be traditional and cultural practices. So some communities still go ahead with this practice of child marriages. There are also tribal people as well. There are some of the people in the remote corners who still practice the child marriages. That is because of the cultural practices. So this has been given from one generation to another. So this has been practiced for a very long period of time. So in order to upkeep their traditional and cultural practices, they continue to exercise this child marriages. Second happens to be poverty. So this poverty is basically where the children are born. It happens to be a female child. The female child is ultimately taken as a burden by the family in that particular family. So because they would not be able to take care of this particular female child, they basically believe if at all this child is married, then this child will be the responsibility of the husband and they need not have to take care of this child. So because they do not have effective means and economic relationship that is established, they do not have enough provisions and the money to take care of this child, they basically want to give up on this particular child by marrying it to another man so that she becomes the part of that family, and ultimately this family is able to take care of that particular child, is able to take care of that particular wife, so that these people are not taking the responsibility of it. They do not have the economic means, which is why they are getting them married. Limited educational opportunities. If the girl does not have educational qualifications, she will be under the control of her parents. She has to be economically dependent on her parents. So because of the limited educational opportunities, this person is getting married in an early age. Then there is social pressure, lack of awareness of the laws as well. Many people in the remote corners do not know that allowing the child marriages is barred under the law. They do not have the legal awareness, and as a result they are getting their children married. Then there is weak implementation of the laws. What do we understand by this? Despite the laws, these laws are not being present. They are present on the paper. They are the paper tigers, but when it comes to the implementation, the executive authorities are not able to stop them as well. And meanwhile, there is lack of alternative opportunities for these women, which is why there is continuance of the child marriages. So in order to overcome all these issues, and awareness has to be created, initiatives like Kanyana Prakalpa has to be enhanced, and what the government has to do is to look into all the lacunae that are existing and bring about a change in the near future. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. If you are liking these initiatives, please hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also share it with your fellow aspirants as well. Thank you for watching. All the best.